All right, so welcome to day 2 of Invested in Diabetes Peer Mentor Training. But today we are going to really get into the role of what a peer mentor is for diabetes. And we'll talk a little bit about the ethics and setting boundaries of being a peer mentor. And then we'll actually practice some role playing. I don't know if anyone had a chance to look through the rest of the instructor's manual that I sent around after last time. And then I thought we could spend a little bit more time practicing or doing role play of the peer mentor role. Okay. Anna Laura, are you able to stay longer today, or do you also have to get off early?
No, I can stay longer today.
Wonderful, thank you. Do you have a camera? We'd love to see you.
I'll move to a location where I can share my screen.
That's okay. That's okay. You don't need to. Okay. So, what is a peer mentor? So, a peer mentor is someone with lived experience with a common health condition. So, you have diabetes that provides peer support to another person with that health condition. And so what is peer support? So you share your knowledge and your experience. So what is it that you know from having for as long as you have that you really want other people with diabetes to know, especially people who are newly diagnosed? What do they need to know? What does your doctor not tell you at the very beginning? Peer support is also frequent, ongoing, accessible, and flexible. This is not just a one-time thing where you sort of share what you know with someone. It's being available to someone to answer questions, to give suggestions, and to meet people where they are, like we talked about last time. Importantly, it complements and enhances other healthcare services. It does not replace healthcare. So you're not doctors, you're not nurses, you're not asked to provide any healthcare services or any health advice or medical advice. You're just sharing your own knowledge and experiences and what you've learned about managing diabetes and the ups and downs of managing diabetes. And finally, it creates emotional, social, and practical assistance necessary for managing disease and staying healthy. So what sorts of emotional, social, and practical assistance can you imagine someone with diabetes, especially newly diagnosed, might need?
You're asking us, Bethany, what we think?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. To have, well, they need a good support system. Sometimes that can come from your family. Sometimes that comes from outside sources. I think a classroom setting will be really good to help with those things, the emotional and the social side. Practical really is from my view, like that medical standpoint, what actually has to be done to help them be successful.
What sorts of emotional support might someone need?
I remember when I was very first diagnosed, I didn't hear a lot of what was being said to me. So sometimes knowing that, coming into it, knowing that a lot of those things are just going right over their head, knowing that these questions are coming up, still giving them those options and being there to listen. Because I think that's probably the most important piece of the emotional side is just listening.
Can you
Absolutely.
talk a little louder, please?
I'll try.
Hey, I'm old. I'm deaf.
Thanks, James. I don't know where the speaker is on this thing. I'll try.
Thank you.
James needs some practical assistance in this regard.
Patch did too, so there's something definitely going up. There's something going on with it.
Well, that's pretty good right there.
Okay, maybe that's where the speaker is.
And then we just see half of your head, but that's okay. For emotional support, do you think someone might need, James?
Pardon me?
What emotional or social support might someone need when they have diabetes?
Oh, in my case, I just want everybody, just treat me normally, not feel sorry for me or anything else. And then just, I don't know if it's an emotion, but help and remember you create new habits so people support those habits for you. Remind you to take your medicine at first because you're not used to doing that, or don't eat that long john, not in a bad way, but just start changing your habits. And my daughter was pretty good about helping. She started creating more salads and reading up on eating healthier and things like that. So slowly the food changed some. So just things like that were helpful. And, I never did get angry about it. I just accepted it. Okay. I didn't feel any different. So I guess maybe that's why and I never really got depressed. So they just,
Yeah, but you can imagine someone might.
oh, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Very good. Come on, where'd you go? There. All right. So, few basics to being a peer mentor. So the basic philosophy is that people are best served by a relationship that supports their own empowerment and decision making. What do you think that means?
Well, I think it would make you feel like you're in control. You're the one that's making the decisions for yourself. And the better decisions, if you continue to make them, you're going to feel more confident about that you can, you won't solve the problem, but you'll handle it.
Yeah.
It looks like,
How about you, Kendra?
it looks like supporting them in the decisions that they're making, giving suggestions for maybe things that might work better, but allowing them to fail forward, empowering them to make those choices.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So instead of telling someone what to do, we're encouraging them and supporting them and empowering them by giving them skills that they can use to make their own choice, take care of themselves. Right? So you can imagine that someone goes to the doctor and the doctor says, you have diabetes, here, go take this medication. Here's your prescription, go fill it. Good luck. I'll see you in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Has that empowered the patient to know how to take care of themselves? What could you imagine might be a different scenario? What do you think the doctor could do differently to better empower the patient?
Point to resources that are available within the community, things that they can Google for themselves, give them options.
Yeah, options. Great. So as a peer mentor, your goal, always remember this is really hard to do, is to help your peers, help the patients find their own solutions to their own problems and not solve their problems for them. Okay, this is harder than it sounds, because we all like to give advice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your friend comes to you and says, oh gosh, I have really been feeling super tired all the time. Okay? I'm just feeling so sluggish and so tired. What should I do? What would you say?
We're assuming the person knows they have diabetes.
Yeah, let's assume they have diabetes and they're just tired all the time.
Tell them check their blood sugar.
Yeah, so you say, hey, well, your blood sugar. Maybe your blood sugar's low. What might be another strategy that that you could use to help people find their own solutions?
Speak to our own experience. I know that when I'm getting a lot of sugar, my sugars are high, but I do feel tired. One of the things that helped me regulate that was doing a food diary, so I knew what foods were triggering those things, making those suggestions. Experience.
Yeah. And then ask a question, right? So share your experience. And I really like that the experience you shared was like, you know, by doing this behavior, by tracking my food or by keeping track of my blood sugars, I started to learn that my body reacted in this way. So you're conveying that lots of things in that messaging is that you learn that the behaviors that your doctor asks you to do are there for a reason, to help you learn about your body, right? So that message gets conveyed. And then by asking a question is, how might you start to learn how your body reacts to, blood sugar in the food that you're eating? Maybe that has something to do with it, or what other things do you think might be contributing to how sluggish you feel? Because people might surprise you. They might say, oh, you know what, it's probably because I've been staying up late every night, watching too much television, and just not getting anywhere near enough sleep. And you're like, oh yeah, that could have something to do with it, right? And so by making assumptions about what people's underlying problems are, you're maybe leading people down the wrong path. So it's really important to ask questions. So the tools that you use to do this are active listening skills, and we'll go through what this means a little bit more. And a lot of active listening skills are asking questions. Problem-solving skills, and we'll talk about this. There's some problem-solving skills in our curriculum, actually, and your own experience. Oh, there's Blanche. Hello, Blanche.
I don't see her. I gotta run out and close the windows of my truck. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Hello.
Hi, Blanche. Can hear you, but we can't see you.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Okay, so what do you do with these tools in this basic philosophy? We lost Blanche. I guess she's having trouble. You provide assistance in daily management. So use your own experiences with managing your diet, your physical activity, your medications, to help people figure out how to manage diabetes in their own daily lives. And the nice thing about groups is that there's lots of experience that people can draw from. You can help them in identifying resources, like where to buy healthy foods or nice, convenient places to go do exercise. We already talked about social and emotional support, and you already mentioned, you knew right away, this is about listening. Being empathetic and saying, yeah, I can absolutely see how that would be your experience, and provide encouragement. Like what sorts of encouragement do you think you could provide?
I feel like in a lot of ways, the peer mentor role is encouragement, that people can get past this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh, Blanche says they're having computer issues and she'll sign in when she gets it figured out. Hold on, let me tell her. help with coping with social or emotional barriers and helping people stay motivated to reach their goals. How can you help someone stay motivated? What might that look like?
Well, I think if you know what their goal is, whether it's to lower the blood sugar or lose weight or whatever, then you got to at least know what their goal is so that you can motivate them. But well, can't offer them a donut or something when they reach their goal, but you can tell them that if they're losing weight, they're going to feel better. If they exercise, they're going to feel better. You know that from experience. Sometimes changing your eating habits makes you feel better too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I really like what you said. You need to know their goals. I want to know what they care about, what they want to work on. It's critically important. Don't tell them what their goals should be. Listen. Number two, talk about kind of the benefits of reaching their goals. Of what might happen? What do you expect to come out of that? What would be the benefits of that, of sticking with it? Mm-hmm. However, a lot of times when we're trying to reach our goals, it's not that easy. How can you help someone stay motivated when they're not doing well? What do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like this kind of goes back to what you were saying, Jim, about understanding what their goals are, maybe reminding them of the intent, right? What is the benefit at the end of the day? Why are you doing it? And reminding them why they're doing that, telling them that it's okay, that we all fail, and we just got to pick ourselves up and keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's critical, right? And if you, like, I am trying to drive to Denver, right? And I'm in Boulder, and I'm trying to drive to Denver, and I'm stuck. My car won't move. I'm stuck in traffic. There's no way to get around. I'm failing miserably at my goal of getting to Denver. What are some other strategies that I could try to get to Denver? I have an answer. Natalie, here, stand up and say hi. This is my daughter, Natalie.
Hi.
Bye.
Natalie has an idea. What's your idea? Call the police. Call the police and get a police escort. Love it.
It's a great option.
Yeah. What else? What else can I do?
Call an Uber.
What's that?
Calling an Uber or Lyft.
Call an Uber. Yeah. Okay. They probably know some routes that I don't know. They know the back roads.
Look for a different route.
Look for a different route. Yeah. You get out and walk, ride my bike, take the train, right? So if something that you're doing to try to reach your goal isn't working, that's a lesson. That's information. That's not failure. That's not the right path. That's not the right way to get there for you.
Right.
There are reaching your goals. There's almost innumerable opportunities and ways that you can try to reach your goals. And so if something's not working, like the outcome is still valuable to you. It's still something that matters to you. But the way that you get there might need to change. Okay. So then linkages to clinical care and resources. We already talked about this a little bit. Peer mentors can really help bridge the gap between patients and health professionals. So what this means is someone goes to their doctor, and this is what you said, Kendra. They go to their doctor, they've just been diagnosed with diabetes, and the doctor rattles off this list of 15 things they need to do to take care of themselves. And how many of those 15 things does someone absorb?
Maybe one.
really understand. Maybe one, right? Maybe. And it might be you have diabetes.
Yeah.
Okay? They might be stuck on that. Like, are you sure? I'm not sure that I really have diabetes. Like that, right? And then all this other stuff is like, they haven't even gotten there with processing it. And so one of the things that, you know, a peer mentor can do to help bridge the gap is say, all right, you know, let's like process what you have here, and what you know and what you've been told. Now, here are the questions you should go ask your doctor next time. Or here's, you know, and you found to be really helpful when I was first diagnosed, about how I could engage my doctor. You can encourage people to seek out clinical and community resources when it's appropriate. So if someone says, my goal is to learn how to cook healthier foods, but still within my culture, you might say, oh, I know this really fantastic cooking class for Russian food. You know, maybe your patient is Russian. And they say, oh yeah, I want healthier tips for cooking Russian food or Hispanic food or, you know, fried food. You know, are there healthier ways to go about doing that? And do you know of resources or classes in the community that you can direct people to? Just ongoing support, being available and meeting patients multiple times over the course of the 6 sessions, around, you know, if you're open to it, having people, texting with people or emailing with people if you wanted to, or, you know, staying a few minutes after class if someone wanted to talk to you about something that came up during class and they wanted more information. Okay, so what is a good peer mentor? Right? So specifically, this is someone who helps lead the group visits with a healthcare team member. So we already talked about how there's a health facilitator who is the one who primarily annual, and you're a partner with them, helping the group to stay on track, helping, you know, answer questions, helping engage people in group discussions. And so sort of paying attention, are you noticing someone who's, and that you want, and you're noticing that and you say, oh, no, you know, Bob, I would really love to hear from you. Tell me about your experiences. We already talked about working with patients one-on-one, showing eagerness, respect, and support in the group setting while encouraging patients. So what might eagerness mean? What might that look like? What might it mean to be eager in a group?
I think that looks differently from a participant than a peer mentor.
What might it look like for a peer mentor to be eager?
Leaning in, listening and asking questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about respect? What might that look like?
Well, listening would be a good way to show respect as long as you're showing interest in what they're saying.
Absolutely.
Without being judgmental, not judging them for what they're saying.
Yes, exactly. Wonderful. And then we already talked about support and encouragement. Hello. We see you down at the end of the table there.
Hmm.
All right. Blanche, can you hear us?
Oh, yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Great.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. We've had quite an adventure here.
Yeah, well, thanks for sticking with it.
Oh, yeah.
So you're just talking through kind of what the role of the peer mentor is, and we are recording this so you can go back and listen, or you can just read through the slides that were attached to the meeting invite for today.
Oh, okay.
So just to recap, a good peer mentor, it helps to lead the group with the healthcare team member by sharing their experiences, helping engage people, using active listening skills, and helping people sort of figure out their problem, their solutions to problems. Providing emotional, social, and practical support, and making recommendations for information or resources about things like housing, food, clothing, legal, psychiatric services, anything that you know of in the community that can help meet people's basic needs or their health needs. And one thing so you might know from your own experience what some resources are in the community, but it can also be helpful to start asking around and familiarizing yourself with what's available in your community. So you might ask the clinic, do you have any resource lists anywhere that I could become familiar with? You could start paying attention to what you notice in your community. So even if it's not something that you personally have used, you can say, oh, you know what? I remember I saw down on Main Street the other day this new gym, and they had this special advertised that it was, $10 a month. And I don't know anything about it, but you might go check that out. That seems to be close to your house. Okay. So your role as a peer mentor with us, so with the invested research team like me and Anawara, you're attending your training. Good job. And then attend the monthly learning community calls. And I believe Anawara is still the primary contact for that. And it'll be on Zoom just like this. And then with the healthcare team, oh, sorry, was there a question?
No, I was just confirming. Yes, I'm the primary contact for the peer mentor learning community calls.
Okay, so confirming that, great. And so with your healthcare team, that's where you'll co-facilitate those group visits. Like I just mentioned, if you can start to pay attention to resources in the community, listen to what other people are recommending in the group, and help the practice develop a local and community resource list, it can be really helpful to help the practice build that list that they can share with other patients. And then we already mentioned doing some one-on-one with patients by phone or texting, and it can be either during or between the groups or right after they're done. Sometimes people have follow-up questions even after the 6 sessions are done. And in general, so there's actually a lot of research on peer support. If you're interested, there's a website called peersforprogress.org, I believe it is. And it's a whole website on all that's been done on peer support all over the world in lots of different health areas. It's really fascinating. So this training was actually adapted from some of the materials that are provided on that website. So if you wanted to go learn more about the different models of peer support, if you're really interested, you could go check that out, peersforprogress.org. So sometimes peer mentors also other types of support like home visits or going for walks together or going grocery shopping. When we first started working with patients to design this project, they all really liked the idea of having coffee hours and buddy walks. And then there was this odd obsession with going to Village Inn to have pie together. So whatever you can think of, social environments to just talk. Okay. We've talked about this a lot. So the 3 main things during the group visit is co-facilitation, but then helping patients with that goal setting and problem solving. And we'll talk specifically about the tools that you use to do that, the SMART goals, and the IDEA approach. We'll cover that today. 17 ways of saying the same thing. Okay. All right. So then, let's see, what time is it? 5:12, we're doing well. Okay. So goal setting. And one of the things that we can do today is role play the session around SMART goal setting. That was the end of the diabetes basics that we didn't get to last time. So what does goal setting look like? Number one, you already mentioned kind of what's the benefit, what's the outcome that you want to see? What's your long-term goal or your big goal? Mm-hmm. And so maybe it's lose 30 pounds, or maybe it's be able to climb a 14er, or maybe it's stop using my cane, that sort of thing. And then what are the short-term steps or goals that are the best way of getting there, right? So what's your path, right? And the path is usually the behaviors that you'll do, right? So I want to lose weight, that's a goal. What are the behaviors that someone needs to do to lose weight? What are some options?
Oh, you want us to respond?
Yes.
I think, looking at eating less, getting more exercise, or eating less of foods that aren't good for you, which is broad, but getting more exercise.
Mm-hmm. Kinds of exercise are good for weight loss.
Yeah.
Does anyone know what kind of exercise is best for weight loss?
Oh, isn't it like more aerobic?
Aerobic exercise is good. What counts as aerobic exercise?
Oh, like moving, like walking, and yeah, the exercises that have, maybe running if you're a runner, if you can do that, but something where you're moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the best exercise for weight loss is a little bit of everything.
Oh,
so you want a little bit of aerobic exercise, a little bit of strength exercise, and a little bit of stretching.
Okay.
So if you only have 3 days to exercise, instead of doing 3 days that are all the same kind, you want to mix it up. One day do weight training, one day do running or biking, and one day do something like yoga or Tai Chi or just basic stretching. So we know goals are important because they tell someone specifically what they're going to do. They help a person stay focused and motivated and increase the likelihood of achieving what they want. So I want to lose. Is that just going to happen? Unfortunately, no. Right? It's not just going to happen. So to set a goal, something that's measurable, so I can say, yep, I did that. Right? That helps me know what I'm doing is helping me get to my long-term goal. And there are lots of things about the goal that can increase or decrease the likelihood that your goals will be achieved. So SMART goals are one way of setting goals that are the right kind of goal that to achieve what you want. Has anyone ever done SMART goals before or heard of these? Yeah, have just heard of them? Anyone else?
Not specifically called that, but I've heard of setting goals, and these are the areas that you need to use to do that.
Right. So number one, it needs to be specific, right? As opposed to, I'd like to lose weight. All right, how much weight do you want to lose? And how are you going to do that? What's the behavior you're going to use to achieve that? My goal is to lose 30 pounds by going to the gym 3 days a week and going to a yoga class, a spin class, and a weightlifting class. Okay. That goal is also very measurable. You can cross off a list how many days per week you went to the gym. You can measure how many pounds you lost. You can measure how many minutes or miles or pounds you lifted. It also needs to be achievable, right? What's a goal that you think is not achievable for you?
Something like I want to lose 30 pounds in a week.
Right, exactly. It's not possible, right?
Right.
It's not something that can be done. Probably for anyone, short of, amputation. It needs to be realistic. It needs to be something that you think you actually will do, right? So it's entirely possible. It's achievable. You can eat 5 fruits and vegetables every day, right? It's not impossible to do that. But is that realistic for you? If you're currently eating 0 fruits and vegetables ever, to immediately jump to eating 5 every day, is that a realistic goal for you? Maybe, maybe not. It's very subjective. So I know achievable versus realistic is a little confusing. So achievable is it can be done, and realistic means it's right for you. And then time bound. So Blanche, what you said, in what period of time am I going to do this? Like for the next month, I'm going to go to yoga every Thursday, right? That's the time period. Okay. So here is a SMART goal sheet. And this is one of the handouts that's provided with the curriculum. And so this is something that the patients in the groups learn to do together, that they fill this out for themselves. So everyone sets a long-term goal, and they set their short-term goal. And this, again, focuses on the behavior, right? And what were some examples of behaviors for people's short-term goals that we've talked about?
Eating the right proportions.
Mm-hmm. Right? Right, doing portion control. Maybe having 1 serving of dinner. Right? That's a very specific behavior. I will have 1 serving of dinner every day for the next week. That's pretty specific. Is it measurable?
Yes.
Yeah.
What would I measure?
You would measure whether or not you're eating more than 1 portion.
Mm-hmm. How many portions for how many days? Good. Is that achievable? Is it possible for anyone to only have 1 portion of dinner?
Yes.
You better determine the
Right.
size of the portion too.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. Is that realistic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Know who you
Now,
are.
if you have someone, if you have someone who's been eating 5 portions worth of food every night at dinner to go to 1, would you recommend that as a starting point for them?
No.
And why not?
Because it's not something they're going to stick with. It's not realistic.
Right. They won't stick with it. They are virtually guaranteed to fail. Right? Right. So being realistic helps increase the likelihood that people will be successful. And when you're successful, what happens? What happens next?
Then it makes you want to keep going.
Yeah.
Yes.
Makes you want to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you want to do more? Like, I went from 5 to 4 servings. Next week I'll do 3. Right? And before you know it, you're down to 1. All right. So then, even if you think your goal is pretty realistic, you want to think through the barriers and what you can do to address those barriers. What are some things or some resources or some support you might need to overcome those barriers? And it might be that your barrier is, I'll get too hungry if I only eat one portion of dinner. And so what might you do if you're worried that you're going to get too hungry if you only eat one portion of dinner? You talked about this. Go ahead, what do you think?
Find something you can eat that is very low calories to help supplement your portion.
Like what? What would be a good example?
I don't know, I eat popcorn, no butter, no salt.
Great. That's a great suggestion.
You drink
Kind of fill up. Yeah.
It does. You're supposed to drink a glass of water before you eat too.
There you go. Great. Increase your fiber and protein in what you're eating. Things that help keep you full longer. And then people want to, how confident are they? And if you're not very confident, then your goal is probably too hard. So you want to adjust your goal. And if it's not very important to you, that's part of the achievable thing. It's like, do you care about this? Is this at all important to you? Right? So you want people focusing on something they care about, right? Has anyone ever tried to encourage a child to learn to play an instrument they don't want to play? Anyone ever done that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
And
have.
how'd that go?
It did not work
It did not work. And why not?
because they did not want to play it.
They did not want to. They do not care.
Nope.
Like that. That's your thing, Mom.
Yep.
Okay. And then finally, what are the expected benefits for you? Why? What's your reason for doing this? Why do you want to lose weight? What's your reason? What might be someone's reason for wanting to lose weight?
Feel better.
Feel better? Mm-hmm.
Reduce medication.
Mm, right. Right. What else?
Just be healthier.
Just be healthier, yeah. And that could be a really different reason than, because my doctor told me to.
Mm-hmm.
My doctor will be happy with me if I lose 30 pounds. How important to you is that? Like, I don't know. Every once in a while, my doctor being happy, that's not as good of an outcome as feeling good about myself and going off my medication. So really staying focused on the prize. Okay, let's see. Okay. And we will practice some goal setting in just a moment. I'll facilitate that. And then the other tool that we really like you to use or participate in is this idea approach. And this is a skill that we teach in the curriculum called the idea approach. And IDEA is an acronym, and it stands for identify the problem, right? So remember earlier when we were saying, I just feel really sluggish all the time. And it took us a minute, but we realized that the problem wasn't eating bad food, it was staying up too late. And so you really need to get to what the real underlying root of the problem is in this experience. So can you identify the problem? And then you say, all right, we're going to define possible solutions. And then we're going to evaluate those solutions. And the fun part about the D step, the define step, is you kind of go crazy. You say, look, we're going to be wide open about our possibilities here. Okay? And you know why we do that? Do you know why we say we're going to even come up with some like really crazy solutions? Do you know why we do that?
Bell curve. Sometimes you can take two very horrible ideas and mesh them together, and they turn out to be a wonderful idea.
There you go. Yeah. It enhances creativity. Comes up with new innovative strategies. That's the way it works. You don't put any restrictions on that won't work. Yeah, just stay focused on things that you think will work. No, go crazy, because it increases creativity, and you might come up with a really great idea that you hadn't heard of before. But then you need to evaluate it. Be like, that was a silly idea, that won't work. And then you need to act on the best solution. Right? And it's iterative. If that didn't work, try something else. You have a big long list now of possible solutions. Let's pick something else. So we're going back to what we talked about earlier about how failure is a learning opportunity. And you're just on the wrong path, taking the wrong route to Denver, and we're going to try one of other solutions. I really like the police escort idea, but probably not really going to work. I might get in trouble.
Blanche, that was her daughter's idea.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So helping patients with problem solving, you're helping them identify their barriers to defining and solving their problem. So number one of the things you can do that you can, and you want to push a little bit, like, tell me more about what's going on there. Like, oh, you're feeling really sluggish? Tell me about that. So before you jump right to solutions, tell me about that. What's going on with that? What do you think might be happening? Okay. Seeing what you expect to see and not what's actually there, so making assumptions. Not isolating the problem from surroundings. So what matters doesn't matter. It takes some digging. It takes some insight to get to that, and sometimes it's not quick. Not seeing the whole context, right? So if a friend comes to you and says, oh my gosh, I am feeling so exhausted and sluggish. Now, if I told you that patient had, or that friend, or if I told you that friend had just had a new baby, right? Those are two very different contexts, very different scenarios, right? And the ideas that might come to your mind for how you deal with that problem could be really different depending on that context. Fear of thinking the unthinkable or taking a risk, that's where that creativity comes in. Judging rather than generating ideas. So like I said, just be creative, put lots of ideas out there before you judge them. Finding a solution too quickly. Like, just going with the first thing, like, oh, fine, let's do that. Going with what has worked before, and making the problem too big. Right? What might that look like? What might it mean to make the problem too big? Any ideas?
Can it be like making the problem as serious so that they're taking it seriously? So saying that, whatever you are having issue with, it's serious, so that they take it seriously. Otherwise, that might have consequence in long term or on their body.
Mm-hmm. Right. You could imagine if someone says, I'm getting really frustrated with my mother-in-law. We hear this a lot. Okay? I'm so frustrated with my mother or my mother-in-law or my sister or some family member who's making things hard. Right? How might you make that problem too big? You might say, oh my gosh, you really need to work on your relationships. Like, clearly, you need some therapy. Right? Like, that's kind of a big problem, right? Or, gosh, sounds like you need to get divorced, right? Or you need to quit your job and move to New York, right? You just need to get out of here, right? Sometimes you can narrow down problems a little bit and make them really manageable. Like, oh, so what are you frustrated about? Oh, well, it's because they keep leaving the toilet seat up. Like, oh, well, I mean, that's not a big deal. we can talk about solutions for that. Does that make sense? That let's not blow things out of proportion. Sort of focused on specifics. Kinda.
I think so, but I also think you need to be careful with that, because if that is a problem to them and it's big, we want to be careful not to minimize it either, right? So I think that's more of that conversation with them about, for me, that may not be a big deal, but it might be for them. And so, I just think you have to kind of be careful with that one, especially when in this role, it seems like it's 6 weeks. So they're probably, depending on the people, it's going to take a while for them to build trust with you. Some things they're probably going to share about some of their problems, so some things they're not, because they don't know people yet. They don't have that trust thing. So I don't know. This what I was a little bit more had a few more questions about this
Really
whole
good point.
problem-solving thing. Yeah, with other people who you don't really know that well yet.
Excellent point. Is that and so there's a reason it's sort of last on the list is you I'm getting to know someone and really understand their context, dig into what's going on there. And there's a balance between making the problem too big and minimizing or trivializing the problem.
Right.
Great point.
So Bethany, at that point, is it better just to be asking the questions and allowing them to speak? Maybe you're not building on the problem, making suggestions where it's a bigger issue than we really know, but just to allow them to vent.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and venting is one thing, but sometimes it's not just, venting sounds like complaining.
Sometimes.
And that's different from facilitating the process of helping someone understand what's going on, right? And that's what questions like, tell me about what's going on. Is this new? Is this something that's just started happening? Or is this time? Like when you go to the doctor and you say, doctor, I have this red spot on my hand. And they ask questions like, well, when did that start? What makes it better or worse? I mean, they're trying to understand kind of the history and the context in which some problem is happening. And so spending some time understanding kind of the person and what that context is kind of the crux of it. And in that process, say, well, what makes it better and what makes it worse? Helping them gain insight into the situation and not just venting.
Mm-hmm.
And not being dismissive.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. So let's practice this a little bit. I am going to bring up our slides from last time. Oh, but I need to connect. Just a second.
Unfortunately, this is when I need to leave to get.
Oh, no.
But I will make sure I look at the notes and things and the video for this.
Great. Thank you, Blanche. Thanks for explaining.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Cool. Okay. So we're going to go back to this module 2 and practice goal setting. One. My computer's being slow. Okay, here we go. All right. So welcome back to session 2, everybody. So who would like to play the role of the peer mentor? And who wants to be the patient?
I'll be
And
the.
then right, and Laura will be a patient. Who else will be a patient?
I'll be a patient.
You'll be a patient. All right, process elimination center. You're the peer mentor.
All right.
All right. So what are some things that you would like to practice in being a peer mentor for this role play session? What are some things that you might like try to remind yourself to do?
The big one is asking the right questions.
Mm-hmm. Great. What else? Another thing you might do.
That's really what I want to practice, is listening and
Okay.
intentional and listening and asking the right questions to help them get to whatever their goal is.
Perfect. Let's go with that. All right. So I'm going to read our content, but then I'm largely going to provide some structure and let you kind of do some of the listening and asking of questions. And you don't have to wait for me to be done. You can sort of interject.
Okay.
All right.
Can you hear me better? Jim?
What's that?
Jim, can you hear me better?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay, I'll hold it up here.
All right. So now today we're going to start learning about some goal setting skills. So there's a saying, if you don't try, you won't succeed. And we always have things that we want to accomplish in life. This is true in general and for our health. Right? So a goal is something we want to accomplish or change. And we all have goals, right?
Right.
So Kendra, do you have a goal for your health right now?
I do have a goal for my health right now.
What is it? Would you share with us?
Absolutely. That is to lose 10 pounds by September.
But okay, so 10 pounds in the next about 5 weeks.
Yes.
That's about 2 pounds a week. That's definitely doable. Great. So some goals can, like Kendra's, can be reached in a pretty short amount of time, a month or so. And other goals can take a longer time to complete. Like Anna Wara wants to get her PhD. Right. And
Yes.
that will take a while. Not by September, right?
No, no, maybe. Yeah, well, the preparation will start in a year or 2, and then the whole degree is like 5 years. So I live organized.
Where are you?
I'm home, but I live very close to hospital, so every time, and it's like always, you know, if ambulance or fire truck goes, it's very noisy.
Yeah. So when I say a goal, what does that mean to you? So Jim, what does goal mean to you?
Something you want to accomplish.
Very good. And why are goals important?
Well, to me, if I reach my goals, whatever I happen to be for that day, I feel better. I mean, mentally, gives you a little bit of a high. Sometimes I'm not realistic about it, but even if you're getting there, you feel good about that. You don't necessarily have to accomplish it in the time you thought you were going to. Just working towards that goal is to make you feel good too.
Very good. Yeah, great. So we're going to talk about the SMART rule for setting goals and how you can use this to set goals that are best for you, right? You all have very different goals, right? You have to pick for yourself. And so we're going to practice this a little bit. After I kind of walk you through it, we're going to practice it a bit, and Kendra, our peer mentor, is going to help us with that process. And when we do this, I want us to focus on setting goals that are related to health and specifically managing your diabetes. You can use this for any type of goal, but for today, we're going to practice around something, a goal you have for managing your diabetes. Does that make sense? Great. Okay. So in order to make changes and reach our goals, we need to have a plan that is SMART, right? It needs to be specific. And I just explained all this to you, so I'm not going to spend as much time as I would in the class. So I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. So it needs to be specific. You want to focus on the behavior. So what do you want to do, and how will you do it? It needs to be measurable. How often are you going to work on your goal? Okay. It needs to be achievable. It needs to be something important to you, something you're committed to doing, something that's possible for anyone to actually do. It needs to be realistic, something you feel you can do, that you're confident you can do. And it needs to be time bound. So when do you want to reach your goal? Kendra, you mentioned that you wanted to lose weight and you had a time, right? And what was the time you said?
About 5 weeks, September.
By September, great. Very good. Okay. And one of the reasons that we want it to be measurable and time bound is because you want to have an opportunity to come back and say, you know, to check it off the list and be watching to see, did I do it? Did I meet my goal within the time frame and the amount I said I would do it? So that helps us know, are we actually making progress? And people tend to be more motivated when they feel like they're moving forward and making progress. It is also very important to understand the difference between long and short-term goals. So some goals are focused on making changes right now, and some goals are focused on changes that you would like to make over a longer period of time. And it's good to have both, right? It's good to have both short and long-term goals. So a couple other examples of long-term goals, like lose 10 pounds in time for my high school reunion in 3 months. Improve my hemoglobin A1C by 4 percentage points in the next 6 months. In 4 months, I want to be able to walk up the stairs to my apartment without getting out of breath. Those will take a while to accomplish. Whereas short-term goals are, for the next week, I'm going to walk to the grocery store 3 times starting on Sunday. I will call my sister 2 times a week starting tomorrow. I will eat a fruit or vegetable every day this week. So what do you notice about short-term goals? What's the time frame for them?
Daily and weekly.
Right. A week or 2. Okay. Because if you fail after a week or 2, what can you do?
Restart it, maybe.
Come up.
So,
What did you say?
Pardon me?
Okay. All right. So let's actually practice this a little bit. Come on. Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
All these goals are tangibles. Is that correct? What about intangible?
Yes.
What if a person has an intangible goal?
Like what?
Improving their discipline so that they can meet these goals.
Improving their discipline. Okay. So what does it mean to improve your discipline? How might you measure that?
You turn down a donut. But
You could turn down a donut.
how often
right?
are you going to turn it down? And is that going to improve your discipline? I don't know.
There is evidence showing that the more you practice discipline, the easier it is to do.
Okay, is that pertaining to one thing or to everything? I mean, if you turn down the donut, sure, that'll get easier. But what about the piece of pie or the cake or whatever? Does it apply to them too?
What a good question. So actually, this is probably getting way too technical, but actually that there was a lot of research into that over the last 20 years. And there was this guy named Roy Baumeister from Florida who studied a lot about self-regulation, so this discipline, and what he called ego depletion. And he made the argument that self-regulation or discipline, the ability to kind of control your own behavior, is like a muscle. And that by practicing it, you build it up, and that it is general, that you can build up your discipline in one area and have it apply in another area. So he got really famous for all of his research showing that was true. And he got taken down a little notch when people started questioning some of his research methods. And so we're not quite as confident in that finding as we were maybe 10 years ago. But generally, our understanding is that that you can build general or generic discipline. It tends to be context specific, right? So my ability to have discipline when I'm in my regular home environment might be really different from my discipline when I'm on vacation. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, you're on vacation. You don't want to have any discipline.
That's the point of vacation.
That's right.
And then just making this point that when you finish one short-term goal, whether you thought you were successful or not, or how successful you were, you can think about setting another one. Right? Remember how we talked earlier about how success breeds success and breeds more motivation. And so you want to have some little successes that build on each other over time.
So when you set your goal, would you put down what you would feel is successful? Like if you 3 days out of 5 you've accomplished, and that's your goal, then you're successful.
Well, then wouldn't your goal really be 3 days?
Well, it might have to be 3 days out of 5, you know.
Yeah, 3 out of 5, and you'd feel good about that.
Pardon me?
And so you said my goal is to do whatever you want to do 3 days out of 5. That's your goal.
Yeah, I'll skip the donut 3 days out of 5.
Sure. And that's your goal.
2 days I can.
Good.
So do you set that goal? You figure out a success rate you're going to be happy with before you start accomplishing your goal?
Well, and so that idea that goals are kind of grow on each other over time. Like maybe your long-term goal is to never eat a donut again, right? Except on your birthday once a year. Maybe. Right? But right now, you eat 3 donuts every day. Right?
Okay.
And so your short-term goal this week may be, I'm only going to eat 2 donuts every day. And you're like, oh, I did that. No problem. Right? And then the next week, it's like, I'm only going to eat 1 donut every day. Right? And you start sort of slowly increasing your goal over time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, good.
So
All right, so what's that?
Your success rate the first week is to cut out 1 donut a day. So that would be, if you do that, it'd be 100%. So you should feel good. And then the next week,
Yeah.
you cut out 2 donuts, and your success rate is, if you do it the whole week, it's 100% again. But are you going to be satisfied with 70%? Do you set up the 70% at the start before you, that worst case scenario, if I do 70%, I'll still feel successful? Do you do that before you even start?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, what does success mean for you? It depends.
So Bethany, this kind of goes back to what you were saying as well, is like, what if you're not successful? So what if you get to the end of that week and instead of making the 3 out of 5, you made 1? At that point, it's not that you failed, right? It's like, okay, so let's look at this again. Maybe that wasn't realistic and attainable. What's realistic for me this week? Maybe I start with 2 of the 5. Is that right?
Absolutely. That's great.
Okay.
Yeah. Because you might not know when you first start out how realistic your goal is. Like, I don't know, I'll try. They're like, well, that did not go well. I need to adjust a little bit. Right? You want it to be challenging, right? Like, oh, I usually eat 3 donuts a day. I'm going to leave 1 bite of donut on the plate. Like, really? Why not 2 bites of donuts? Right? You need to be a little challenging. Make it a little hard on yourself. Strap that muscle so you're actually doing them.
What, Jim?
I see, you better have a plate. I'm not going to get past those 2 bites.
Throw it in the trash right away.
There you go.
Yeah. Make it gross to finish that bite of donut. All right, well, let's practice a little bit, and Kendra's going to help me out. So we just talked about donuts with Jim. Let's have Anna Laura. Do you want to, shall we work with you on setting a goal to help manage your diabetes? You there, Anna Laura?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
So what is
All
the
right.
question again?
So you're going to set a goal to help to manage your diabetes, and Kendra's going to help ask you good questions to walk you through this handout that we have here.
Okay. Okay.
Can you see it? Is it big enough? Let me make it a little bigger.
Thank you. Sanawara, what's your long-term goal? Do you have a long-term goal you're working towards right now?
Yeah, so I want to, when I start doing any physical activities, I'm out of breath. Like I'm okay with moderate level of physical activities, but if I do like intense physical activities, I can't breathe, I'm short. So I end up spending like short times and then do like moderate physical activities like walking, jogging. But I want to kind of, improve that, my cardiac health, so that I can do, intense physical activities that will affect my blood sugar.
Okay, so is it like endurance that you're looking for?
Yes.
All right, what are you doing right now to work towards that goal?
So I haven't started doing anything, but I'm planning, to start going to a gym or having like a personal trainer who can help me kind of identifying an appropriate exercise for that.
That's great. What does that look like for you? What would it look like for you to get started?
Well, I know I have to go to my gym or like go to my gym and identify a personal trainer, but it's like with the time, and everything else going on, I'm not sure even if I get into the gym, if I will be able to, make that time commitment. Yeah, I'm not sure, it's not part of my daily activities. I don't know where to begin actually.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? Long term, that's a great goal. What's something small right now that you could do? You talked about setting up time to go to your gym. Is that something that's close to you?
Yeah, I can, it's not very close, but it's like only 10 minutes of drive. So maybe I guess I can start with that.
What are some other, go
Mhm.
ahead.
No, I was,
What are some
that's
other options that you could do maybe outside of the gym? Are there other options you could do maybe at home or locally in your community that's close by?
well, there is a park close to home. Um, Again, I walk a little bit every day. It's part of my daily routine, but I'm not, I want to do more than walking, and I'm not sure what exactly, which kind of activity I should do or start with. I guess I can go to the park and do that if I know which one is appropriate. I looked at online, but again, a bit lost here. Don't know which one is right for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're walking now, is that right? How often are you
Yes.
walking now?
Uh, at least 5 days in a week.
5 days,
About like 20 minutes.
20 minutes a day?
Mm-hmm.
What are other things that you could do outside of walking? Jogging, running? What are other options you have instead of just walking? What's things that you could add in at this point?
I guess I could add a little bit of jog. It's very sunny. I try to find time between my work, so it's like whenever I get time, I do that. So I get like if I do jogging, then I think I should bring appropriate clothes and shoes, and it's hard kind of getting out of work and do that. Um, but yeah, a little bit of running or jogging, maybe I could add there. If I could change my dress in between my work or whenever I'm getting time.
All right. So if you were to create a SMART goal, like we've been talking about in class,
Mhm.
what would that look like for you on a short term? What would that look like?
Yeah, maybe add like running for 10-15 minutes with the walking, like shortening the walking duration, and then add a little bit of running to that. Um, I could do it actually after work. If I can go home early, and I usually spend that time to catch up with family, with friends, and watch TV. I can maybe move stuff there and then move this thing after work.
All right. So it sounds, what are some of the barriers that you might come up against?
Um, I don't feel comfortable like walking or running in my neighborhood after dark after work. So that's
Okay.
one thing. If I can find someone to do that with me, that would be helpful.
Finding a friend support group,
Mhm.
that's an excellent idea. Do you have somebody in mind that might join you?
I can ask my roommate.
All right. What are some other options that you would have for people to come with you, or maybe making sure that you get out before dark if that's not?
Um, I know some other friends who have diabetes and who can do like some sorts of this kind of daily activities. I can talk to them and see if they are willing to join me, or we could do somewhere in between my house and their house, and if that's working.
That's some great ideas. All right. I don't see the SMART anymore. Do I need to ask about measurable? How often we would do that? Is that something that you would lay out now, Bethany? Yeah.
Sure. There's no rule.
Okay. How often would you want to do that? What's reasonable?
Well, at least start with like a couple of days, like 2 to 3 days, maybe for now, not exactly 5 days, because I may not find someone who will be willing to do it for 5 days. So at least 3 days in a week. Again, 15 minutes of walking, 15 minutes of running. Maybe.
All right. So if we were going to focus on just this week,
Mm-hmm.
Sunday through Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
what would that look like? Would you do 3 days randomly throughout the week?
I guess, based on if they're, whenever they're available right now, or if I find someone, it's important for me to find someone actually.
All right.
Yeah.
So what happens if you're not able to find somebody?
Um, hmm. I guess I could do like short distance walking during the working hours and after work, like short distance running. So dividing the, the physical activity duration. maybe
Alright.
not having all 30 minutes altogether.
So when we're looking at time, and I'm looking at the SMART, right? So you're very specific that you wanted to add in some additional things to help you get your endurance up, right? And you're already walking.
Mhm.
So you're talking about adding in some running,
Mhm.
at least 3 times a week out of those 5 days. 3 of those days would have some running in there as well.
Yes.
You said some of the barriers that might come up is you don't like doing this after dark in your neighborhood. So one of the things you're going to look at is talking to some friends or family to see if they can join you, or people that you know that are already in the diabetic community that may want to join as well.
Mhm.
And if you're not able to do that, at that point, you're going to try to mix it in so you're doing shorter bursts and able to get it in that way if you've got to go on your own.
That's correct.
Yeah. So on this confidence scale, if you were to represent this by a number based on 1 through 10, 10 being very confident, 1 not at all, how do you feel in terms of your ability to achieve that goal?
Between 6 to 7.
6 to 7. All right, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so as I said, I'm still a bit nervous about like if I don't find someone doing it by myself on my own. And then, I choose, prefer dress, figuring out when I can do it. And also moving the stuff that I have right now. I mean, this week seems very overwhelming. So it's like the things that I can't control, and then things I have. I'm not very confident, but I think with a little bit of effort, maybe I will be able to do at least start it this week, and then maybe do better next week.
Yeah,
I don't
reevaluate.
know.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan to get us started. That's a great plan.
Yeah.
I really like the way that this is set up too, Bethany, that the next question is how important. Like, how important is this goal to you? On the same kind of scale, that 1 to 10, 10 being very important, 1 not at all.
Well, I mean, I have been wanting to do something about my endurance for a while. It's been it's been going on in my head, but given everything else going on in my life and everything else I have to do to manage my diabetes, it's been really tough for me to focus on this. But at this point, I think I'm kind of, I'm feeling like I should just do it. So I would say like it's between 8 to 9.
8 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so pretty important for you, right? At the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Anwar, is that by upping your endurance and being able to breathe better, this is going to help you manage your diabetes better. And that's ultimately what's the most important to you.
Yeah, at this point, it's important.
All right. Sounds like a pretty important goal.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you for taking your time and talking to me and helping me understanding actually. It makes more sense right now that I'm talking out loud and, saying stuff. I haven't think about some of these actually when I was thinking of doing it. So it really helped me.
I so hope everyone's like you, Anawara. That's probably not realistic, but you're awesome. So I see you're the next question on here I can see, but it's, I don't know how much. Okay. We talked about the expected benefits that she's going to achieve with her goal. Would you add anything there?
No, I think it was covered.
Okay. Cool. Great job, Anawara.
And so do you think how you sort of like iterated on her goal? So you didn't go through and say, make it, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. You did this beautifully, Kendra. It was wonderful. I'm shocked you've never done this before. You did such a nice job talking through these different pieces, coming back to, well, let's make it measurable. And then we're going to look at the barriers and the importance, and that's what makes it achievable and realistic. And the confidence is what makes it realistic. And then we sort of worked in there that it was time bound. It really used this handout as sort of a guide without feeling like you needed to go through it step by step. And it was very nicely done.
Thanks, Bethany. Thank you, Anawara. I think you made that easier than what it would be.
You start going through this as a guide and so forth. You still come across as as a peer, or all of a sudden you start appearing more as an instructor?
Yeah, either way is useful.
Well, you're there to be a peer, not an instructor, right?
Not as what? Not as structured?
No, if you start going through and using a handout and stuff, don't you start to appear more like an instructor rather than their peer?
That's a good point. Yes. However, often the way that this works in class is that you do a demo, just like Kendra did with Anawara, and then everyone gets this handout to take home and work on coming up with their own goals on their own as part of homework.
So as their peer, you're not necessarily going to go through every step with them. You're just going to try and help them achieve the goal, however works for them. And what if they have more than one goal, like 2 or 3? Are they setting themselves up for failure or not? Or do you go along with that? I mean, you probably could handle 10 or 12 things at once, and the other person can only handle 2 or 3 or 1. So,
great point.
but how do you figure out what they can actually handle so that they, achieve their confidence and feel better? And do you just let them go ahead and go with 3 goals, and if they fail, then you say, well, maybe I'll just do 2 or
4-1, yeah.
Or,
One of the things that Kendra did that I thought was a really great approach is started by asking Anawara, what are you doing to work towards that goal right now? And so Anawara said, I want to work on my endurance. And if Kendra said, well, tell me more about that. What are you doing to work on that right now? And if Anawara had answered by saying, like, yeah, I'm currently just running half marathons and I'm trying to get to a full marathon, like that's good to know that what she means about endurance is running 20 instead of 10 miles. And that's very different from, I feel like I can't walk down the block without getting out of breath. And so that asking questions is a really important part of it, to get that context of, well, what do you mean by that? And what are you currently doing to work towards that goal? I thought that was brilliant. Okay. So if people are kind of quiet in this section and they're not really volunteering a lot and no one wants to do a goal themselves, if no one volunteers, one of the things that you as a peer mentor you can do is say, would you like us to demonstrate what this looks like? And then you would be the volunteer to be kind of the guinea pig for this process. And so if you have a group that's feeling kind of shy, like they're hanging back and not wanting to put themselves out there, you can step up and be that demo person. Does that make sense? You don't want to volunteer too quickly. You want to give them a chance, but you're going to have a sense of how quickly that each group of patients is willing to jump in. And you might have a group that you're not worried about at all. Like you're going to have so many people volunteering to be the demo person. And others you'll say, they're hanging back here, and to encourage them to participate. And if that's the case, if you have a group or one person who never wants to volunteer, you can say, I would really love to hear from Bob today. You've come a few times, you've done, how about we work with you on your goal setting today? And then if Bob says, okay, fine, you're like, oh, I'm so glad, I've been really looking forward to this. And so that's that eagerness and encouragement part. Okay, so we're at about 6:12. I wanted to go through the idea approach. And so if you're following along in the instructor's manual, which you might not be, that's fine. It's module 3. All right, so I'm gonna module 3. First, we have to zoom out. Okay. All right. So welcome to Module 3. Today, we are going to focus on two things. Really, we're just going to do one thing. Problem solving and then talking to your doctor. These are two really important skills that we're going to learn today that are helpful in really every aspect of your life, in every aspect of your healthcare, not just in diabetes. And so problems are a natural part of life. Does anyone here have no problem? No problems?
I wish.
I know, everyone has problems. And so this can be particularly true when you're dealing with a health condition like diabetes. It might actually start to feel like you have so many problems, you don't even know where to start. And so people might have all different sorts of problems, from things like feeling like you don't have enough money to buy the medicines that you need, or maybe needing a change in your medication before your next appointment. So I'm like, this isn't working for me. I'm having a lot of side effects. I'm not sure what to do. Just a couple of examples. So today we're going to talk about some useful ways to solve problems so you can remove barriers and get what you need as quickly as possible. Right? So last time we talked about goal setting, and what we went through some of the barriers to achieving our goals. Well, sometimes like barriers are kind of big and problems are kind of big, and it can be useful to have a process that you follow for kind of coming up with solutions to those problems. So what is problem solving? So problem solving is a tool that you can use to, number one, talk about a situation in your life that causes you concern. Right? Something's bothering you. You're going to think about choices that you should make, what you might do. You're going to decide on the best solution, and then you're going to apply the situation to solve the problem. And if it doesn't work, you try again. Okay? So we have an approach that we're going to teach you today, a solving approach called IDEA. And IDEA stands for identify the problem, like really get to the root of it, what's going on, what's bothering you, define possible solutions, list as many as possible, be super creative. We're not judging these solutions at all. There can be kind of silly options. Then you evaluate the solutions, list all the pros and cons, and then you act on the best solution. So, IDEA. So remember, if something's bugging you, come up with an idea. Identify, define, evaluate, act. Okay, so step one, what is the problem? Right? What's keeping you from doing or getting what you want? So for instance, let's say a problem is I forget to take my morning medication for my bipolar disorder. Okay, that's a problem. My goal was to take my medication regularly, and I keep forgetting. Step two, define all possible solutions. Think of all the possible ways to solve your problem. We're not going to judge them. We're just going to write them down.
Now, this is part of what we should do as their peer mentor, help them do this.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
let
You
them.
can help them this process. Yeah, and we're going to practice.
Okay.
And so number two, what are the possible solutions to forgetting to take my bipolar medication? I could take all of my medication at bedtime. All right. I could talk to my doctor about giving me a medication that only needs to be taken once a day. I could just stop because I'm still depressed and it's clearly not working anyway. All right, no judgment. Those are options. All right, now we're going to evaluate them. I'm going to kind of break it down. Like, all right, so solution, I could take all my medication at bedtime. One of the pros is that, well, that's easier to remember. The con is that I'm too tired in the morning and it probably makes me oversleep. Might still be okay. I could talk to my doctor about giving me a medication that only needs to be taken once a day. The pro is that it's easier to remember and it might work even better. The con is I don't have a doctor's appointment for 2 months but I could probably get one sooner if I called and told them what was happening. Or I could just give up on my medication entirely since I'm still depressed. And the pro is that's the easiest thing, it's the least amount of hassle. The con is I might get even more depressed. Maybe it's actually working a little bit and I don't realize. And I've tried that before and I ended up in the hospital last time. Okay. So if this were you and you're looking at those pros and cons, which of these solutions do you think would make the most sense?
Can you go back up to the other two?
Yeah. Here's talk to my doctor. And then taking out your medication at bedtime. What do you think is the best choice?
Seems like the obvious answer is to talk to your doctor, but
Yeah, you get motivated
Yeah.
to do that.
Well, if that is what's scaring you, if the talking to your doctor part is scaring you, we're going to learn some tips in the second half of our class today about how to do that. And maybe that might help you feel a little bit more confident in that, in actually using that solution. So it sounds like you kind of know that that would be the best choice, but there are some barriers to that. That's a whole other problem, right? So it's multiple layers of problems. So let's see, what did this person, all right, so your best solution might be the one with the most positives and the fewest negatives. Solution number 2 looks like it might have the best trade-off in pros and cons. So this might be the solution that you try first, right? Call, and your doctor says, nope, that's all you get. Stick with it, deal with it. Oh, I guess then I can try number 2. It's better than nothing. Maybe get a new doctor in that case. Okay. All right. So let's test this out a little bit. So James, do you want to be the peer mentor here? And I can facilitate this process, but I'll just ask you to sort of jump in and so Kendra, you can be the patient here, but I want you to be kind of quiet, like not really willing to volunteer a lot. And James, you're going to have to try to ask her questions to draw her out. Okay?
Well, until I run out of patience with her. What do
Yeah, so don't press it too much, Kendra.
okay, deal.
All right, so I'll get started. All right, so we're going to practice solving a problem of our own now. And Kendra, thank you for volunteering. I know I know this is a first for you, so I really appreciate you stepping up. But let's have you think about one problem that you're currently having with your diabetes. Right? So take a moment, think through it. Something that concerns you. Something that's keeping you from reaching your goal. Before you talked about a goal being that you wanted to lose 10 pounds by September. What are some things, some problems you're having or concerns that you have about that?
I work at a desk.
You work at a desk. Okay, so tell me about that.
My job is not, I don't get up and move at all.
Okay.
Can you talk a little
That's
louder?
getting too much.
Sorry, Jim?
I can't hear you again.
I work at a desk job. I don't get to get up and move a lot.
So that's a
All
hint,
right.
losing weight?
Yes. Can you hear me? Jim, I'll try to find the stinking microphone on this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so can you hear me okay?
No, I can.
No, you can't. Okay. All right. So it sounds like sitting too much at your desk. Is that the problem
Yes.
that you're saying? All right. Good.
Well,
That's a good example to use here.
Okay. You're entitled to breaks, correct? I mean,
Yes.
you get a 15-minute break in the morning and a lunch break and a break in the afternoon.
Yes.
Absolutely true. So next, what we're going to do is try to define possible solutions. So we can all help come up with some possible solutions here. We can make a list. And what I would do is I would have like a whiteboard or a scratch pad or something that I would write what people are saying up, on the wall. So let's help Kendra come up with some possible solutions to sitting too much at her desk. So Jim, as a peer mentor, has this ever been a problem that you've experienced?
No, it's not. I've never. My jobs have always been moving around. I mean, I sit at a desk for maybe an hour, then I'm up and gone again, then maybe half hour. I mean, right now it's going to be 2.5 hours sitting at a desk. That's pretty long for me to sit. I mean.
Yeah, well, we should all stand up right now.
Well, that's why I was asking.
So,
What if her solution may be at break times and stuff, she can do stretching and exercise like that. That would it would burn up some calories and make her muscles a little more limber and things like that. That would help.
yeah. Got it, please. My solution is you should go work for Jim in his candle making business.
I'm hiring right now.
You're hiring. Great. And Amara, do you have any suggestions, possible solutions? Remember, we're not judging. We're just making creative lists right now.
So one of the things that I do sometimes is just taking my lunch with me if I'm bringing it from home, and then go somewhere outside of the building. So if there is no space to sit, just take the stairs and then kind of go down and then it's somewhere there in front of the building. And if there is anything nearby like park or something, go there and have the food and come back.
Mm-hmm. You could get a standing desk.
Yeah. Some companies, actually have everybody stop and do some form of exercise throughout the day, just for various reasons. I'm not one of them, but jumping jacks or anything like that, it just gets your blood flowing, clears your head. It's probably not going to burn up a lot of calories, but you are going to feel better. Help keep your mental attitude good and feel like you're doing something, even if you're, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kendra, what do you think? What are some solutions that you're thinking might be possible for you?
I really like where Jim's going with the breaks and taking that time to do short exercises.
Yeah. How might you remind yourself when to get up a break?
Do I do that now? Is that what you're asking?
No. How might you remind yourself? Like, when will you do that?
If I'm honest, I don't do that well now.
Yeah.
So maybe after one of my tasks are done.
Okay. Every time you finish a task, you'll stand up and do 3 minutes around the office or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I drink a lot of water so that I have to go to the bathroom a lot. And that makes me stand up at least every hour.
That's a creative solution.
That's a cue. You need something to tell you it's time to stand up, right?
What if your task is so long, do you stop and can't you stop in the middle of that task too? I mean, you can't, you'll all work and no play. You gotta take a break here and there. I mean, every time my help takes a break, they're not being productive, but in the long run they are, because mentally they're fresher, they feel a little better, maybe they have a little snack or something, and I'm all for that. I wish there used to be, and probably is, some wall exercises you could do, but I don't recall them anymore. But I'm sure you could Google them and find them.
Yeah, there's some YouTube videos that you could use that are like office exercises.
Okay.
So, and they're kind of quick. They're like 2 or 3 minutes long, and they're office exercises, like doing some lunges and doing a wall sit, doing some tricep dips on your chair, things like that. So you could look up and find one of those on YouTube.
You have a phone?
All right, well, that's a lot of great possible solutions. And in real life, you would keep going a little bit, depending on how much time you wanted to spend on this. So, Kendra, in the interest of time, what were your sort of 2 favorite ideas so far?
I really liked the one in terms of, and I think I know where you were going with the question you're about ready to ask, Jim. If I have a phone, and maybe that is the answer, is setting an alarm to get up and move.
There you go.
Yeah. Googling some office exercises. I actually applied for a standing desk and was denied. So unless I want to buy one, I didn't want to fork over $250, but maybe I should.
Right. Yeah, they should. Yeah. Okay. So you like the Google some office exercises and set a timer on your phone.
Yes.
Right. And like the 2 of those combined.
Yes.
And so what, when you evaluated that in your head, what were the pros you were thinking of for that combined solution?
Then it's not based off the task at hand, and I could be more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely smiled upon to get up and walk away from your desk. We just don't do it well. Yeah. The only cons I can think of is stopping in the middle of one of my tasks and not holding myself accountable to actually get up.
Mm-hmm. And what was one of the options that you ruled out that you didn't think was going to work for you? What did you rule out?
The standing desk.
The standing desk. And what are the pros of a standing desk?
I am getting blood flow all day long instead of sitting down. Studies have shown that sitting is as bad as smoking. But it's it's the dollar amount.
But if you're on your feet all day, it can have a tendency for your fluid to stay down there at your feet and your ankles and all that, which is not a pro.
Right, I agree. Thank you, Jim. That's right. That could be, especially with the diabetes and having the edema from standing all day, that would be a con if you didn't have the opportunity to sit down.
And what are some cons to a standing, other than some other cons of a standing desk?
You could get tired standing there.
Space could be
And you were already told no. You need to pay for it.
That's the big one, is I was already told no.
What were you going to say, Anawara?
Oh, space. Sometimes you don't have enough space. Like if you share a cubicle and stuff, the space could be an issue.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough that I have good space. It's just a matter of me doing it myself. And it's one of the other barriers, if you will, is without a mat or something to stand on, that can be incredibly uncomfortable. So it becomes a cost issue.
How high is a standing desk
So
versus a normal one?
So they make several different sizes. They're adjustable. Most of them you can put up to stay 5 feet, 4 feet. It's really based on how tall you are. So that's not too bad of an issue.
And if you do get one, make sure you get one of the ones that can go up and down.
Okay.
So, because you don't want to stand all day.
Right.
Well, then you wouldn't want to put cinder blocks under there. I mean,
No.
it's a way to raise your desk, but you would be standing all day. Well,
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
go up and down.
It crossed my mind, Jim.
I sometimes just go stand at the kitchen counter when I'm working from home.
Yeah.
But the island in our kitchen is kind of high, and so I'll just put my laptop and stand by the kitchen counter. I sit way too much when I work from home. The bathroom's right there.
I'm also
Not far enough away.
working from home. It just staying sitting. At least
Yeah,
I have
it's really not good for you.
no.
All right. So you've evaluated, you basically did this in your head. You know, you thought through pros and cons in your head, and you decided that your best solution is to, what was your plan?
To set a timer on my phone to take 2 breaks and to look up exercises that I can do during those breaks.
Excellent. Very good. And if this helps, the recommendation is to get at least 250 steps every hour.
Oh, that does help. I have a Fitbit.
That's about 3 minutes of walking.
Okay.
Yeah, are you supposed to walk that in the hour, or are you supposed to walk those steps in like 5 minutes, or does it matter?
It can be spread throughout the hour, so you could do 30 seconds here and 30 seconds there, as long as it adds up to 250 every hour.
Is that an average, Bethany? So say if I'm in a 3-hour meeting, but I went for a 15-minute break and walked for that 15 minutes, it would count, or no?
So it's actually interesting that the evidence shows that sustained physical activity has a different benefit from just regular moving. So yes, it's great if you're going to be in a 3-hour meeting to say, you know, I'm going to go for a 15-minute walk right before and right after that meeting. That's great. And you should still stand up every hour. You may not get 250 steps in, but the evidence shows that just the act of sitting on your butt is bad for you.
Yes.
Yeah, for that long. It's harmful.
For long,
All right.
3 hours?
Say that again.
3 hours?
There
3 hours is way too long.
There are times, Jim, that I will sit in an 8-hour meeting and I'll get the 1 break for lunch. And that'll be it. So, yes.
Will the other people sit there right with you?
Yep, they do.
Wow. You know.
And so part of this is changing the culture of work.
Yes.
And so if I haven't been using that long, I will say, let's go stand up now. Let's take a break now.
Well,
and to establish that culture, to be a good role model.
Okay, that is a good idea.
well, you're entitled, if you're working for somebody, you're entitled to those 2 15-minute breaks plus your lunchtime.
You are too, and I know that we're entitled to that. I just see some unfiltered information about me. Jim, is I used to be a smoker, so I was very much so every 2 hours I'm going to take my break. And then I quit smoking about 2 years ago, and I'm not good about it anymore. So I can sit and I work through it, and I don't realize it until that time's gone. So if I'm in a group of smokers, we'll get a break every time. But if none of them are smokers, it's not intentional. We just do it.
Well, you trade one bad habit for another.
Right? I know, right? Something. I need 15 minutes.
All right, great. So what do you think about SMART goals and the IDEA approach?
SMART goals is something that we use at work. The only thing that we add to it is a level of accountability that I feel like is missing in that. So that would be my only piece of feedback, is we're saying, hey, cool, do these things, but then we don't have any kind of accountability to follow up.
That's a good point. There is a part at the end to say where they're supposed to sign it. So that's a form of commitment. But that's a really good point. And you can certainly bring that up in class and say, all right, this is a great goal. What are you going to do to keep yourself accountable for it? And so what are some things that people can do to keep themselves accountable to their goals?
Are you asking me that as a question, or you would want me to ask them?
Both. So what do you think?
So I think the fact that it's 6 weeks, if we started out, and I haven't read through the manual all the way, Bethany, if I'm honest, but if you start out with learning the basics and the SMART goals, and you create a goal that first week and they're short term, why is it not something that you report back on the next week? So that we are the accountability buddies, right? So it's like, I did this, I have to talk about it. I'm going to be more likely to do it if I'm going to be held accountable.
Absolutely, yes. So it is assigned as homework. And then at the beginning of the next session, they're supposed to do a homework review.
Okay.
To see how well people do. But that's also a good thing as a peer mentor, to sort of check in with people and say, hey, how's it going with your goals? Oh. Excellent. All right, so we are in the home stretch here. I wanted to go over one other document. Yes, dear. Okay, that's fine. Nothing. All right.
How old's your little one?
She's 10.
I have a 7-year-old, almost 7 and 11.
Yeah.
Adorable.
She just turned 10 a couple weeks ago.
Well, happy birthday to her.
Okay, so this is a document that we would like you all to print out and sign. We usually do this in person. And because just like we were talking about, this is a way of sort of ensuring commitment and accountability. So these are the general expectations for peer mentors. And these are both kind of for your good as well as for the good of the patient. So number one, what's really important, remember we were talking about respect earlier, the importance of respecting diversity. So everyone has a right to their own differences, including diversity of culture, ethnicity, sexual preference, race, language, socioeconomic context, and residence, right? And so we're going to treat other people the way we want to be treated. And it's important to know that prejudice, discrimination, and intolerance are unacceptable at any time. And that's true for yourselves as well. You should expect to be treated with respect and without prejudice. And if you're feeling like that's not happening, that's a problem that you need to talk to the clinic about. One person's value should never be forced on another, right? So if there's something you care about, we're not in a position of wanting someone else. Like, I really think everyone needs to be eating lots of vegetables. But if someone else, like, I just don't believe in vegetables. Okay. You know, I'm not going to. And so, yes, you should not tolerate prejudice, discrimination, or intolerance from others. And if you feel this is occurring, you don't respond, but you should speak with the clinic staff to figure out the best way to manage the situation. That's never okay. And you should assure and protect confidentiality. Peer mentors should hold patient communications and concerns in strictest confidence, with the exception of situations where critical or safety information needs to be shared with clinical staff. So what sorts of things, if a patient told you in confidence, would you feel, would you need to go talk to the clinic staff about? Do you think?
If they were going to hurt themselves.
So what?
If they were going to hurt themselves or someone else.
Right. Yeah. There's sort of a list of things that teachers and doctors are required to report, and it's things like child abuse, and situations where someone is a harm to themselves or others. But otherwise, like if someone tells you like, look, I hate Dr. Jones. I have a terrible time with Dr. Jones. She never does what I want her to do. She's always late in calling me back. She's really mean. Is that something you would go tell the nurse in the clinic, that that patient is having a hard time with Dr. Jones? Now, what if you said to the patient, so, you know, maybe there's something we can do about this. If you're really struggling to communicate well with Dr. Jones, you know, would you like me to sort of ask around whether there are any other options? Like I wouldn't have to mention you by name. Do you want me to sort of look into this at all? And if the patient says, yeah, sure, that would be great, then by all means. But otherwise, you can just keep it to yourself. And if there's any doubt in your mind about what's confidential versus a safety risk, you should always talk about it with the clinic staff. And you don't even have to use a patient's name, but if you say, you know, I have a patient who mentioned this, is it something you need to know about or would be concerned about? They can help you figure that out because they're trained about that sort of decisions. And even though you are not employees of the clinic, there can be penalties for failing to protect confidentiality depending on the situation. You are not employees. You are not bound by HIPAA. People are sharing things with you as a peer and not as a member of the healthcare team. But just in general, it's better to keep things confidential. So then you want to be honest about your own situation, but recognize that you're not obliged to share personal experiences or issues that are not comfortable for you. It's important to remember that you are not providing treatment in the Invested in Diabetes project. Your role is just limited to providing your own viewpoint and experience about things that are discussed in a group visit. Also, you're not perfect, and that's okay. And so we're all learning from our own past experiences, and so it's you know, you don't have to pretend that you're perfect. Be honest, but you don't have to answer all questions, especially anything that makes you uncomfortable. Sometimes hearing about someone's past struggles can help a person make better decisions. So a person can learn from other people's mistakes or challenges instead of having to learn the hard way. But if you talk too much about yourself, people who have to make their own decisions may fail to make these decisions. Right? So sort of modulate sharing your own experiences versus sitting back and listening. Be aware of your limits and boundaries and how your behavior can affect others. You can't solve and shouldn't try to solve other people's problems, unfortunately. And similarly, people aren't there to solve your problems. Your role is to help people learn about how to better manage their health and from working with their doctors. And this is often a gradual process, and some people may not listen or benefit from either the group or the staff. But you could very well have patients that say, I don't believe in vegetables, right? And you could react by saying, what are you talking about? It's maybe you don't believe in vegetables. As opposed to, okay, all right, well, you know, let's talk about other ways that we can have healthy eating, right? You don't have to agree, but you also don't have to react. So you want to keep your interactions with patients focused on the topics in the group visits only, like really try not to go off on a tangent. And if there's any doubt in your mind about whether something crosses the line, you can again talk with the clinic staff about it. And hearing about other people's challenges can be emotionally stressful. Taking on other people's stresses and emotions and helping them, like listening to them, can be really stressful, and can actually be, people can take on other people's traumas. And so if you're struggling emotionally because of life stress or other reasons, or from the stress of hearing about other people's problems, you want to talk to the clinic staff about this. If you're ever feeling like this is too much for you, you do not have to do this. All right, that's important for you to know, that your health and well-being comes first, and you're doing this out of the goodness of your heart. But if it's too much for you, it is okay to say that, to step back. And you know, Jim, just like you did earlier, like, you know, September is not a good time for me. I'm more available in November and December. And then after that, if you're like, I need to take a couple of months off and then I can come back later, it's absolutely fine. Mm-hmm. And then finally, be respectful of others' time and effort. You know, be on time. If you say you'll do something, follow through on it, and try not to multitask during your peer mentor duties. Any questions about any of that? All right. So again, I know it's a little confusing given that we have the research team and then the clinic team. But if you have any questions or concerns about a patient or about the way the groups are operating or when or where groups are happening, you're going to talk to your clinic contact. Sounds like that's Ashley. But if you have any questions or concerns about your peer mentor role in general or the learning community or the research project, you can get in touch with me or Anawara, and our phone numbers are right here. And you have our email addresses.
Fantastic. How will we know when the learning community phone calls are happening? Is that something that Ashley will notify us of? And
I can talk about that. So what happens is, well, we have an upcoming call next week, which is on 31st from 3 to 4 p.m. And I'll add you guys after this call. If you guys are available, join. If you are not, we send meeting notes after the call. And then after we are done with that call, we look at the calendars, people's calendar, whoever needs to be there, and then find a time, like few times, and then send around the time. And then, you know, with emails, and I make phone calls sometimes if I don't hear back from some people. So that's how we decide the time. And then we send the calendar invite, and then we have like a reminder call before the call. But you'll always have option, even if something doesn't work for you, like absolutely it doesn't work for you, you'll always keep that in mind when you're scheduling the call.
Okay. Is it beneficial for us to be in them before we take on that role in the classroom?
You don't need to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we have some peers who
you don't have to. Sorry.
Sorry. No, I was just saying, like, we had some peers who did not start yet, but had like all different questions. So when you listen to them, sometimes you come up with some questions that you were wondering. Sometimes just listening to them is helpful, just to, you know, planning your day. So yes, it's really great.
Yeah, I'm curious if there is benefit just in hearing some of their own struggles that they deal with before you go into the class and seeing things at the time.
Are you ever available? So I know both of you requested the after hours training. Are you ever available to join over a lunch hour?
Yes.
Like at noon? That would be generally okay. What about for you, Jim?
Yeah, for the most part, we have 1 week out of the month, which is when we get 90% of our orders. And unfortunately, we don't know exactly what week that'll be. Sometimes it's the first week of the new month, or the last week of the old month, but you know, could certainly do my best to be available over lunch hour, sure.
Okay. It's totally fine. We'll make it work. And if you can't make it 1 month, that's okay. We'll send around all the materials, and we'll have notes, and so you can at least read kind of what other people's suggestions and thoughts are.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Last one, Bethany. I know you said print it off, but can we put it into a PDF and sign it that way and just send it back to you? Or does it have to be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
And when do you need that by?
As soon as you can get to it.
Okay.
Say in the next week.
Okay. Timelines are
You're
good.
talking about this form we have to sign?
Yeah.
Is it in that manual you sent us?
Oh, no, it's a separate document. Or maybe you could send just that one document to Jim so it's clear which one we mean.
Okay.
The peer mentor expectations.
So how do you know we're good choices for doing this?
Great question.
Say that again?
How do you know that we are good choices to be peer mentors? Or are you gonna send me a letter that says, sorry, but you didn't make it, buddy?
You're all excellent choices. You're in.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Did you talk about the invoicing, like how we are going, so the payment?
No.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Okay. So we are not paying the peer mentors for their participation in the group visits, but we have we figured there is one for participating every peer mentor learning community calls, we'll be able to pay you $50. So if you join the call, then after the call, we send you a check. So I hope you're informed. Did you all provided your information to the practice or someone, like the scope of letter SOP? Was it SOP? Your address, your contact information, additional information to the practice already?
Yeah.
Okay, so
That came from somebody else in Boulder or someplace, right?
yeah, so it's so if we have that, I'll double check that. Once we have that information, we'll put you in the CU system, and you should be receiving emails from the CU system, because there are some information that we can't put, that you have to put. So once you do that, then you are already in the system, then we'll be able to pay you. So every call you join, you'll receive a $50 check after the call.
Well, I'm not worried about getting paid. I'm worried about whether you think I can do a good job at this. I don't want to waste your time.
Oh my God, no. I mean, you are perfect match. It's very, and that's why I'm really excited if you guys can make the peer mentor calls. There are other peers, and it's such a nice meeting to sit in and then listen to everyone, and it's like, everything helps.
How many peer mentors are you looking for?
So we have 11 practices, 11 clinics that are doing the version of group visits that have peer mentors, and every practice has at least one peer mentor, but some practices have a lot of them, several.
So and the peer mentor goes to these weekly meetings for 2 hours with oh, that makes sense, because that's from November to December 18th would be the 6-week period, 2 hours a week.
Right.
Actually, when I had to go, I didn't have to go, but when I did go, they were always in the evening. They don't do them anymore in the evening, or?
I don't know. You'll have to ask Ashley. I'm not sure what the.
Well, I went to. These were held over
I think so.
at the hospital at that point. Of course, I don't know. Maybe you still are. Although this one sounds like they're going to hold them at the clinics or something. Is that correct?
Yes, they're held at the clinic, and they're run by the people who work in the clinic. We don't run them.
Oh, okay.
All right, so Ashley should be able to give you a little bit more information about like when and where and what and that sort of stuff.
So she'll be in touch.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Ashley will be in touch with about
Absolutely.
all this.
She will.
Well, I knew where the new clinic is because that's where my physician is.
Yeah. So we'll handle like research and learning community stuff, and Ashley will handle the clinic stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, if you think of anything else, don't hesitate to email or call me or Anawara. And thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
All
Thank
right.
you.
you too.
Bye.